Hi, everybody. It does always help to press the live button when it's time, which I didn't do right at 3 o'clock. Anyway, hello, good afternoon. And it is a beautiful day here in the Nashville, Tennessee area. Chilly, but the sun is shining brightly, and if you have any cats in this area, they're probably getting all cozy up in front of a window that's got direct sunlight. Good to see you there, Jan, and there was somebody else that cruised in there. Jordan, good to see you. So today I thought we would chat about, if you guys will participate, curiosity. And specifically curiosity with getting to know each other. So many times we will attend a gathering or find ourselves in a situation, a social situation with other people, and where we are not really knowing people, and we wish we could get to better know people, and not really understanding or realizing how to. Now, there are some wonderful extroverts in our midst, and any little bits of wisdom that you care to share, that would be awesome. But even those who are extroverts and totally comfortable in social situations have shared with me that being comfortable in a social situation doesn't necessarily give you the kind of relationships that one longs for, where you have found some sort of simpatico with somebody, some sort of commonality that continues to drive the relationship forward, sometimes over a short period of time, and sometimes for a lifetime. Pastor Bob and I talk frequently about some friendships that we've had for years and years now, and those are complete blessings. But if you're in a new class, or if you are attending a new fellowship, or starting a new job, or even if some of those things you've already been in them and haven't really found a connection, what I want to talk about is, how does that happen? What does that mean? And what part of us can change that so that we can have connection, we can find commonalities, and we can feel bonded and excited about the people in our lives. Hey, Andrew. Yay, good to see ya. I was talking with a gal a couple days ago about a conversation I had last weekend with somebody. They were sharing with me, and it was actually in a larger group, but they were sharing out loud their thoughts on something. And I was genuinely curious about why they thought that way. It happened to be regarding kind of a political issue, and yet not. And it wasn't about who we wanted to be in office specifically. It was more about the concepts of being unified together. And my friend said to me, well, so what made you ask the question? I said, I was curious. I'm always curious about what others are thinking and why, and what makes sense to other people and why. And I might learn something. I might further refine things that I already think I know. And she said, do you like to go deep in your conversations? And I said, yes, I do. It makes a difference to me to be able to, hey, Axel, good to see you this afternoon. It makes a difference to me to feel connected. So have you ever discovered that maybe you are a person that does ask a lot of questions and no one ever asks questions about you? that makes it hard to feel connected, right? You're curious about others, but it seems that others are not curious about you. So let's just start. You know, the idea that quality relationships just fall into our laps, that's not to say it can never happen, but in fact, quality relationships are usually the result of some work. It can be hard work, or it can feel like hard work, or it can be work that just flows naturally out of your genuineness to want to get to know each other. Hi, Dwayne. Good to see you this afternoon. So if you're genuinely interested in what others think, that is the surest way to be able to dive into a conversation that's going to generate, hopefully, a dialogue. You know, conversations can often be one-sided. You're asking questions and people just answer them with closed-ended answers. Or they answer with a monologue or a narrative that goes on and on, all about them, but there's no seeking a reciprocity from you. And ideally, if we're looking for deeper connection with each other, we want the reciprocity. But every conversation is not going to result in that. And curiosity will definitely at least get you connected enough to perhaps satisfy your initial curiosity, and in the end, maybe generate a relationship you couldn't have anticipated. So when you're meeting people for the first time, if you're feeling a little shy, instead focus on the other person and be curious. You can ask some of the most obvious questions. You know, what's a person's name? Why are they wherever they are, that you're able to be dialoguing or to talking with each other. You can ask questions about people and their families. And it could be about if they're of an age to be married with children, you could ask if they are married or have children. You can ask if they have brothers or sisters, or people that they're close to in their family. And each answer will give you a piece of information to have a follow-up question. There are a lot of people out of work these days and struggling to figure out how they fit in the world when they can't say proudly, I work doing this kind of work, or I work at this company, and trying to figure out a way to be identifiable that isn't related to work. And this is an excellent thing to learn early on in our lives. We are not our work. Our identity is in Jesus Christ. But many people do identify specifically with their work. And if they don't have something to say about that, then they feel as if they have nothing to say at all. So having an arsenal of questions at your fingertips that don't have anything to do with work can be hugely beneficial. Things like, what do you like to read? What did you last read? Do you watch TV? What are some of your favorite TV shows? Do you enjoy movies? Do you enjoy music? Do you like to hike? Do you like to randomly ride buses? So do you like to travel? Favorite foods, ice cream toppings. You see where I'm going here. There's a lot of things that you can ask an individual that can generate open-ended answers that don't have anything to do with their career, their work, or their family. And Andrew, you're saying here, hang on, let me look. You always feel like you're interrogating people when you ask questions like that. Well, are they doing something that makes you sense that they feel interrogated? Or when people ask you questions like that, it makes you feel interrogated and you're assuming the same for other people. I'm interested in your reply. Staccato-y questions that are met with one-word, one-line answers repetitively can indicate that the person's not really interested in communicating or having a reciprocal conversation. You can move on, but at least you've tried. If you're in a group of individuals and there's conversation going on and you're listening and you're intrigued by something that somebody says and you have questions about why they believe that, I'm really always interested in not so much what people say as much as how they got to the place where that thing came out of their mouth. Stating an opinion is all well and fine, but I'm always really interested in how somebody got to that place. What did they process in their brain to get to the place where they had that opinion? And then listening quietly to somebody answer that. Sometimes people who profess to have opinions about things, even very passionately, when you ask them why they said that or what caused them to think that, if you do it in a genuine and open and loving way, you can really generate some wonderful conversations. Perhaps they know exactly why. Often people who just spout out what they think, they haven't really thought it through, and they're digging. Give people time to respond. Hey Don, good to see you this afternoon. So for those of you just joining us, we're talking about being curious and how to get connection with other people, how to generate reciprocal conversation, how to go deeper in a conversation, and how to read the signs that somebody's not interested in conversing. Now, there's all kinds of reasons that we might want to talk to people. We might be a young man or a young woman, or a man or a woman that's interested in somebody to go out with. Might be because we're looking for commonalities in an organization, somebody that we can be pals with. It might be just randomly we're brought together in line somewhere with somebody and we're waiting forever, and the opportunity for exchanging information about each other rises up, and you can take advantage of it. Whatever the situation, being able to know it's okay to ask genuine questions, to be curious, to be open, to be loving as you press forward in trying to make a connection. Now, I've talked to a number of pastors over the years regarding people coming into their fellowship and saying that, those who are so gung-ho and are so ready to be effusive with praise or signing up to participate in everything and proffering their opinions right and left are often an indicator of an individual that's struggling to be in healthy connections. And perhaps that's true. But there are lots of other reasons that people struggle in the average world to be able to communicate clearly. There are people who have an autism spectrum, people who have trauma, people who are shy and have never really worked through any of that. Andrew, I haven't been able to make you laugh for a while, but I feel like I connect with people who are like-minded when a topic is randomly brought up aside from the general questions. Yes, obviously, Andrew, that's a great point. When things do just come up naturally, without artificial pushing, those are the best situations, because the commonality develops from a conversation that's not artificial. But asking questions is also not artificial. It is maybe less spontaneous in the sense of a joint pursuing of a conversation. but it is not less genuine or less your heart. If you like to get to know people and you want to understand how people think and it's interesting to you, as long as you're not forming judgment that's disseminated through your tone of voice or your body language, people will be open to having those inquiries. People want to talk about themselves. Don't you like to talk about yourself with somebody who's asking you genuinely and well interested in what you're saying and why? People want to be known. They want to be heard. And yes, there are times where people will be perhaps cautious about talking to a stranger. But, over time, you can develop and build a reliable platform, a reliable space to be safe with each other and talk about things. You might meet somebody in line for a coffee on a regular basis, or maybe on random walks through a park that you run into the same people or person over and over again. Those are opportunities, if you are wanting to feel connected, to open a dialogue about it. Why they might be there. And again, it doesn't need to be a Dick Tracy type of Perry Mason, pick your lawyerly, investigative, NCIS kind of mentality. There are ways to just genuinely ask the question. So, I know when I get on a plane, sometimes I'm in the mood to converse, and sometimes I'm in the mood to put headphones on and read a book, and I don't really want to converse at all. And I have certainly sat next to people who that's all they want to do is talk. And I'm not even in the mood to do that. And I have, because they've been persistent. And there's a part of me that I have a kind heart. And there's a part of me that recognizes that people are more important than my book, and that is tugged when other people are reaching out. And I will put away my personal plans for a retreat behind earphones in a book in order to have a conversation with somebody. I've met some fabulously interesting people while traveling, and sometimes the anonymity of that can give people the desire to really want to connect for a specific and singular space and time. That plane ride or the bus ride or the waiting for your bus or your plane time. Obviously, you're going to meet people and be interested in them, and you're not going to have expectations for every single exchange to be something that's going to create the friendship of the century. But if you're not open to the idea that each time you do connect with somebody, that it could develop into something lasting and important in your life, then those opportunities will just seemingly never be there because you're not looking for them. Getting to know one another, the Bible has quite a bit to say about that. A lot of it focuses on us loving our brothers and sisters in Christ. But some of it is advice from God's own hand that you can't really ignore if you want to develop lasting relationships. 1 Peter 3:8. Finally, all of you have unity of mind, sympathy, brotherly love, a tender heart, and a humble mind. Whoa, there's a cast of character traits, right? To grasp onto and embrace. Unity of mind. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to agree about everything all the time. Unity of mind can be a way of processing together. Unity of mind could be the focus on Jesus Christ or some other short-term goal. If you're on a team and you're looking to achieve something as a team, or if you're on a work project, you're on and you have a collective goal as the members of that project team. If you are playing music together with somebody, if you are anything you can think of that you would be doing with other people, if you all have the same understanding of the end goal, you'll have unity of mind. Sympathy. Now, we're not talking pity here. Sympathy. Empathy, really. You may have been in the same situation yourself that somebody else is in, where they're sharing their plight. Or you may have an ongoing relationship with somebody and something's unfolding and you've been there before, and you can feel similarly because you've had a similar experience. Brotherly love. The agape love. Loving people unconditionally right where they're at. A tender heart. And I think that's what I was inarticulately expressing when I want to be left alone on the plane and somebody persists in wanting to talk to me, that I relinquish to the tender part of my soul, the tender part of my spirit, and engage with somebody instead of pulling away. And a humble mind. We all have people in our lives, not those long-lasting relationships where people have been our friends for years so they feel they can just throw their opinions out no matter what. But we all have people in our lives who seemingly know everything and have no fear of telling us what they know. And they may be right a whole bunch of the time. But if we haven't asked for the information, then perhaps we weren't needing it, or we weren't ready to hear it, aren't ready to hear it. So our humble mind. These character traits are important if we want to be connected. Curiosity gets the ball rolling, right? And it won't cause harm to be curious in this way. But to have a sustained connection, it means that there's some reciprocity as you express your curiosity. Now, let's talk just for a second about toxic relationships, toxic curiosity, because it's out there, and to just pretend it's not out there would really be silly. So just talk about it straight up. You have any people in your realm, or you have certainly run into people in your realm where they say they're being transparent, but they unload every little bit about themselves to you within your first meeting. And unless you're a counselor, it's probably not appropriate. Why is it not appropriate? Well, because it's a person that's not looking to be reciprocally connected. I don't know how many people have individuals in their life who you're their best friend, but you couldn't rely on that person for anything, or very little. That's an unevenly yoked connection. And with our genuine curiosity, what we're looking for is for people to be equally yoked with. Maybe they have a different perspective, a different way to process, a different approach, maybe even a different opinion, but they like the opportunity to connect. They like the opportunity to share. They like the opportunity to speak with another person who is interested, and genuinely wanting to know what they think and why they think. Gives a person the ability to process out loud, perhaps. That's a really special, safe, and fun place to provide to other people. A place where they're able to not just say what they think, but also share why they think, and maybe even get feedback on that. Feedback that could cause them to either feel affirmed in the way they think, or to sort of question what they think, and that reciprocal exchange applies to us as well as the person that's being curious. The opportunity to really dive in and have unrestricted dialogue, going deeper, even maybe in conflict because we think different things, but not combative. Conflict isn't bad. Combative is not good. But conflict, disagreeing, having differences, that is a natural part of life. And in truth, even our besties, we have conflict with because we just don't see eye to eye on every little thing. It's not possible. So the whole idea that you could provide a safe space for somebody to generate an exchange of ideas, to generate an exchange of possibilities, what a blessing. What a blessing. And when was the last time that you were in a situation like that? Because these situations, unless you're just sitting at home and you're not even on Zoom or anything, I mean, these situations pop up. Even people who attend Zoom meetings, there's the opportunity usually before a Zoom meeting or after a meeting and any other digital kind of way of connection to have a little conversation with one or more of the members that are attending the meeting. There are ways to get connected and have random conversations that allow you to get to know somebody and allows you to pray for them, allows you the opportunity to have dialogue with God about somebody else's needs other than your own. Intercessory requests to God on behalf of others. I struggle remembering the names of the children of my friends. I struggle remembering the names of people, period. I have to use little tricks of the trade if I'm really going to need to have somebody's name stay in my brain. And then I suffer, of course, from the idea that to have to ask later on when I should well know by that time, in my mind, it's my own expectation. I should well know about others and their names and the children and their names, that I fail to ask because I don't want to be caught without that knowledge. It's a prideful existence, and it's silly and ungodly, and I should remedy that as much as I can. And if you find yourself similarly chiding yourself because you haven't kept in touch as often as you think you should, for any reason that you feel that would keep you from being in connection with somebody else, if it has anything to do with your personal emotions and your personal idea of being perfect and getting caught without doing the right thing, throw that aside and get connected. Throw away the idea that you need to be perfect and that you need to present a certain image, because that's all about you and it's not about them. And Andrew, yeah, the Hebrew alphabet for name association. I don't use that. I use an acronym method, but that's also, whatever method you do, if you've got a way to remember things, it's great. I love a good story. If somebody tells me a story about their life, I'm going to remember it. I'll remember all the details. I do that right now in my current employment situation. I often, with my coworkers, if I'm struggling for the name, I'll be able to tell I can describe the individual's entire situation down to nitty-gritty details as a way of identifying the person that I'm trying to talk about in order to be able to have that connection. But stories are a wonderful way to be connected and encourage people to have open-ended conversation. And if somebody asks you a question, do you provide one-liners, one-word answers? Yes, no, maybe, I'll try. Yes, I like it, with no further anything. Try expounding. Don't presume that somebody's not interested if they don't ask you to expound. Maybe they feel like they're being interrogating. Maybe they think that you'll only expound if that's something you want to do. We need to take responsibility for ourselves and our answers and responses, and not put the burden on somebody else. And we need to take the burden on ourselves to ask people about things, and not put the burden on them to reach out and get connected. We have to be reciprocal in that process. You can't just assume or presume that the way you do something, the way I do something, is the way everybody else does as well. And we have to also, thanks, Andrew. He just listed out in the participants chat the alphabet. Appreciate it. We have to be open to the idea that we can, with our own energy and kindness and sympathy and like-mindedness and love, cause enough energy in a conversation that somebody will feel safe and want to have a dialogue about something. And if you're in a group of individuals where you're sharing some time and space about a commonality, it could be yoga, it could be reading the same book, it could be something as simple as just standing in line for something. Maybe it won't be a forever conversation, but it's a conversation to be had. Lift your head up out of your phone. Lift your head up out of your book, unless that's what you're there to discuss. Lift your head up away from your computer, away from your devices. Focus in on the persons there, and ask with genuine interest what's going on, what they're doing, what they want to do, what are they interested in, and see if maybe a few gentle questions doesn't move you into a dialogue that could become a fascinating conversation and maybe a place of connection for a long time to go. Now, this is an age-old scripture that's usually thought of specifically having to do with love. But this has to do also with the curiosity of others and wanting to be connected with others. 1 Corinthians 13, 4-8. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. So what lives? Well, love. Love for our brothers and sisters. love for just about everything that you can think of. It is the commonality to start from. So if you ask the question because somebody said something that's piquing your interest, or perhaps they've espoused an opinion you're not really in concurrence with, and you're really wanting to know how they got to that place, when you ask the question, is there irritation in your voice? Is your body language showing the distance that body language can show? Or are you enthusiastically like, wow, you think different than me, and I really want to know why? But you're open about it, and you're loving about it, and you're kind about it. Because there's lots of ways to have discussion. And there's lots of ways for you to feel comfortable in being curious and hearing things that are hard to hear. Even if you're pretty sure you're never going to change your mind on what you think. Don't you want to know why somebody else got to the place in life where they thought whatever it was they just told you? Aren't you interested? Maybe there's something new there. Maybe something you hadn't thought of. Maybe God's got you there for a reason, because you're going to need that bit of information for something else in your life at a later time. You can't be available and be used if you're not available in your heart to be used. Matthew 6:24. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. The context here is the idea that we can't serve two masters, being in the secular world where God is replaced by material things. But that relates also with our ability to relate to others. Because if God isn't our focal point, and we're having conversations with others, we will transmit that in our relational countenance. You cannot underestimate the impact of the tone of voice or the impact of the body language. And that includes facial expressions. You know, we've all had those experiences where people rolled their eyes or smirked or other things. And you can't know why somebody's rolling their eyes or smirking. It may be about you or what you've said. It may not be. You may have reminded them of something, triggered them in some sort of memory that made them have their own thought, and that they rolled their eyes. Don't presume that the body language that you're witnessing or that the tone that you're hearing means what you think it means. It means that to you. You have to ask. Here's the curious part again. You have to ask. I noticed you rolled your eyes there. Were you rolling your eyes at this particular statement, or was there something else going on? I noticed you guffawed. You had a laugh or something like that. And I wasn't thinking that was funny. But what made you think that was funny? Ask these questions. Be open to the answers. Learn to experience people where they're at, not where you think they're at. That's a tough one, right? Because we all we have years. However old you are, you've been practicing these skills for that long of a time. You have the lenses on to interpret based on your experience. So the narrower our experience, the more narrow our interpretation. If you're well-read, well-traveled, you've been socialized in your life, then you're likely to have potentially experienced a wider audience and a wider grouping of individuals and exchanges than you would have without those experiences. You know, when we're training animals, any of you guys that have pets, if you have a dog in particular, they talk about the socializing of a dog. And you can see the benefits of that in a much shorter time than you can in socializing our children. But it's the same kind of thing. If we don't get ourselves out there and expose ourselves to things other than what we're used to, we shortchange ourselves in all of our relationships because we cannot fathom what we don't know, right? Most of us. I mean, if you're an Einsteinian brain and you have amazing abstract physics or math skills, then I take it back. You might be able to fathom some things that you don't know yet. But socially, speaking socially and experientially, if we think we know other people, then we need to just stop right there and have an attitude adjustment, because we can't know anybody except ourselves. And we don't want people to presume about us. So when you're being curious and you're being particularly sensitive, you can cause a really big wave of exchange in an otherwise potentially uneventful conversation between yourself and another person, yourself and a group of people. And if you're trying to troubleshoot something, solve a problem, candid exchanges of different ideas in a safe space, genuine curiosity by all involved in a common idea, trying to troubleshoot and get to a resolution that's going to work for all the parties. It's huge. I mean, the application of curiosity to further your understanding and interaction with somebody else, it's an infinite skill. The outcome of genuine curiosity has an infinite number of possibilities. And really, something that we don't spend a lot of time thinking about. I mean, how often do we just sit around and candidly discuss the idea of how to better communicate with each other, how to better read body language, and see, it's not really about doing that. Yes, you can do that with your friends and family if you've got years of experience, but rather than read it, how to notice it and then be able to ask safe, curious questions that would encourage the person that you're asking to ponder what you've asked and then provide you with a genuine, truthful reply without worry about hurting your feelings or embarrassing themselves, because you really want to know the answer and you've created a safe place for them to share the real answer. Truth will set you free. Curiosity is powerful. Wanting to know things. Genuinely desiring to increase knowledge for the purpose of the glory of God. I'm not talking about snooping through somebody's diary or going through a desk or a computer or a phone. I'm talking about genuine curiosity when people talk with each other. when people share space with each other, when people are quietly sitting with each other but experiencing a specific space or other experience. True connection. True love. Humbleness of spirit. Humbleness of our minds. You know, the Lord's Prayer says it all, doesn't it? It focuses on God as our commonality, focuses on our actual needs being taken care of by God, focuses on who is in charge, focuses on putting our hearts in the right place, and keeping us open and available for what God would like us to be doing. I think what he would like for us to be doing is to be sharing time with each other in the most loving fashion possible, in the most productive way possible, so that when we are through with our time with each other, we go forward and we are better for that time with each other. That our eyes have been opened to serving the Lord differently or more fully. That our hearts are open to praying for others and interceding on behalf of others openly and with genuine desire. This morning I was praying for friends. They've got a sick child. And I really wished I could be praying with them. For some reason I wanted to be with them or know that they, I wanted that to be there. And God said to me, clearly, it's not important, that want. That's a desire. That's not a need. You don't need to be with them right now while you're praying this. I'm here, you're here, we're doing the do. And your need to be connected to them it's an emotional thing. It's not possible right now. Put it aside, and instead let's just continue our conversation. So what happens when we're with each other and we find ourselves being tugged to look at a phone or look at a text or look at the TV or whatever, and we're with people? What's important in that time? To be with each other. To know that there's nothing there except for being with each other. There's nothing there that's more important than that. And being mindful of it and being unified in it, and not to be distracted from that time of communication with each other. If you find yourself curious about people and their thoughts and why they think that way, if you find yourself curious about how people process generally, then you definitely need to honor that and move forward with it in such a way that you can be excited and be able to passionately give back and forth and do it knowing that you're loved and you're in safety, and that the exchange can continue and the outside world is not important in that moment, just like you would in your prayer time with the Lord. And then when we're praying with God, we are sharing our hearts, our deepest stuff. You don't need to do that in a casual conversation. Excuse me. I think I have to say goodbye for the moment. I am so sorry, everybody.